The alien ship hung silently above the sprawling human city, casting long shadows over the steel and glass towers that gleamed under the twin suns. The inhabitants below went about their daily lives unaware of the intruders that had come from distant stars to observe them. The aliens had traveled for light years, confident in their superiority, and expecting to find a primitive race that would crumble under their gaze. Inside the massive observation deck, the alien commanders looked at the humans, through shimmering energy screens, their elongated fingers tracing the movements of the people below. They whispered among themselves, mocking the humans for their frail bodies and clumsy coordination, pointing out the workers who struggled to lift heavy crates and the children who stumbled as they ran. The aliens had calculated that these beings could barely survive the harsh conditions of their home world, and yet here they were standing proud on the surface with no fear in their eyes. Lieutenant Kane stood at the edge of the city perimeter surveying the horizon. His armor was scratched from earlier skirmishes, but his eyes burned with determination. He noticed a group of alien scouts descending toward the outskirts of the settlement. Their sleek forms glimmered in the sunlight, and their sensors scanned relentlessly for any sign of resistance. Kane clenched his fists and signaled the nearby human patrols to take positions. The humans were armed with standard rifles and makeshift weapons, crafted from scavenged alien tech. They were no match for the aliens in terms of raw firepower, but they had one advantage that the invaders could not quantify. Their minds were sharp, their reflexes quick, and their will to survive unbreakable. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Voss moved through the crowded streets, her hands clutching a datapad, as she observed the alien patterns. She had spent years studying their biology and combat protocols, and even with all her knowledge, she could not predict their next move. She glanced at the injured civilians who had been caught in minor accidents during previous encounters, and felt a pang of fear. For the humans, there was no room for hesitation. Every moment counted. Every decision could mean life or death. Kane approached her quickly, and together they watched as the aliens touched down, sending ripples of energy that bent the air around them. The aliens spoke in harsh, guttural tones that reverberated through the city and laughed at the humans as if their existence was a joke. They pointed at Kane and whispered that he would be incapacitated immediately with just a minor strike. The first engagement erupted without warning. The scouts moved with precision, striking at the human perimeter and expecting immediate surrender. Kane dove forward, deflecting a strike with his armored forearm and grabbing a pipe from the debris to use as a makeshift weapon. The humans followed his lead, throwing whatever they could find: rocks, metal scraps, and homemade explosives. The aliens recoiled, slightly surprised by the coordination and determination displayed by the humans. Kane felt a sharp pain shoot through his back, and he collapsed to the ground, the world spinning around him. He had felt a snap and knew instantly that something was seriously wrong. His spine was injured, but his eyes still burned with defiance. From the observation deck, the aliens leaned closer to their screens, their antennae twitching in confusion. They expected Kane to writhe, in pain, to succumb to the injury, but instead he gritted his teeth and forced himself upright. Inch by inch he stood, his movements agonizing and unnatural to the alien eyes. His comrades rallied around him, inspired by the sheer will emanating from their leader. They improvised weapons from broken machinery and pieces of the city building debris, launching a counterattack that caught the scouts off guard. The humans moved with synchronized chaos that defied logic, using everything around them as tools and weapons. The aliens murmured among themselves, unable to comprehend how a species so fragile could adapt so quickly and respond with such lethal precision. The battle raged in the outskirts of the city, the sun glinting off metal fragments, and human weapons clashing against alien armor. Kane pushed forward, ignoring the pain. Each step a testament to human resilience. Dr. Elena Voss calculated trajectories and provided cover fire through improvised energy rifles, cheering every time a human maneuver succeeded. The aliens were beginning to feel something they had never experienced before: the unmistakable fear of underestimating a species. They had assumed humans would crumble, yet here they were, adapting, surviving, and fighting, with an intensity that was terrifying in its simplicity. The humans may have been outgunned, but the fire in their eyes and the courage in their hearts was impossible to measure, in any alien sensor. Kane's stance alone defied their predictions, and in that moment the aliens realized that these humans were unlike any other beings they had encountered before. Their laughter faded, replaced by a growing sense of disbelief and unease, as the humans continued to move forward, united unbroken, and unbowed Kane stood tall against the throbbing pain that pierced through his spine with every breath. Each step felt like an eternity, and yet his body refused to surrender. His hands shook, but he gripped his weapon tighter, the pain becoming secondary to the burning desire to protect the people around him. His legs trembled, but he forced himself forward with a slow and painful determination. The aliens watching from their high vantage point expected him to fall to the ground, unable to move anymore, but they were wrong. The human refused to give up. He knew that even if his body couldn't support him any longer, his willpower would carry him. He could feel the mocking eyes of the invaders upon him, and it only made him push harder. His comrades, the human soldiers who had witnessed his stand, rallied around him. Their leader's resilience in the face of impossible odds gave them strength they had not known they possessed. Dr. Elena Voss watched in awe as Kane moved forward, each step slow, yet purposeful. She had never seen a human pushed to this limit before, yet here was Kane defying all biological expectations. She knew that a normal person would not be able to do this. The human body wasn't designed to function in such extreme conditions, but somehow Kane found a way to fight on. She could see the anguish in his face, but also a spark of something far deeper than just physical willpower. She could see his refusal to succumb to the invaders. She knew that something within humanity had always set them apart from other species. Their sheer determination, their belief that no matter how small the odds they could overcome them. The alien scouts had paused their attack for a moment, unsure of how to respond to this unexpected development. Their sensors had confirmed that Kane's spine had been broken. They had watched him fall and had expected his body to shut down by now. Yet here he was, moving as if he had nothing to fear and nothing to lose. The aliens began to confer with one another, sending out high-pitched transmissions that carried across the battlefield in an attempt to understand what was happening. They had witnessed many races from countless planets succumb to the slightest injury, but this one man was different. Kane's hand clenched around the broken pipe as he took another staggering step forward, his breath coming in shallow gasps. His muscles screamed in protest, and yet he gritted his teeth, ignoring the growing numbness that threatened to overtake his limbs. He was more than just a soldier now. He was the symbol of humanity's strength, of their refusal to bow to any force that sought to destroy them. The alien forces looked on in disbelief. Their pride had been shattered by the sight of this one human continuing to fight even when his body should have been unable to respond. His actions were defying everything they had believed to be true about the human race. Elena quickly shouted orders to the nearby soldiers, urging them to adjust their position and to help Kane in any way they could. They fired their weapons with unrelenting precision, picking off alien scouts one by one as they attempted to regroup. She saw Kane's face twist with pain every time he moved, but his eyes remained focused on the task at hand. He was not going to stop. He would not fall. The aliens began to retreat, slightly unsure of how to respond to a force they could not easily understand. Their technological advantage was vast, their weaponry far superior to anything the humans could throw at them. Yet they could not ignore the fact that these humans fought with a ferocity that seemed to know no bounds. They began to hesitate as the realization slowly crept into their minds that they had underestimated their opponents. Kane's pain was becoming unbearable with every passing second, but it did not matter. He would fight until his last breath. He wasn't just fighting for his life. He was fighting for humanity's survival. He was fighting for everyone who had ever been told they were too weak to survive against the might of the universe. He knew this was bigger than him. It was bigger than this moment. His actions would define humanity's place in the galaxy, and the aliens needed to understand that. As the humans regrouped, they could feel the shift in the air. The aliens were no longer the confident invaders they had once been. Instead, they were unsure, uncertain of what to expect next. And in that moment, Kane knew that he had already won. He had shown them the most important thing that no alien force could ever conquer, the power of the human spirit. The battlefield shifted as the air became thick with tension. The alien forces began to regroup, but their usual confidence was replaced by a deep uncertainty. The humans were not supposed to be this resilient. They had expected to break under the first real assault, but instead they had witnessed something that made them question everything about their understanding of the galaxy. Kane, despite his broken spine, had shown them a truth that rattled their very core. Human strength could not be measured by the same rules that governed every other species. Kane's soldiers, his brothers and sisters in arms, had drawn strength from their leader's example. They no longer fought in fear, but with the same fire that burned in his chest. They fought for survival, for family, and for the future of humanity as a whole. The alien invaders watched as the humans advanced with a new purpose, their movements coordinated and deliberate. No longer did they stumble under the pressure of superior firepower. Instead, they adapted, they improvised, and most of all, they refused to lose. Elena moved with precision through the battlefield, giving orders and calculating trajectories in the blink of an eye. She had always known humanity was capable of greatness, but now, she was seeing it unfold before her eyes. The weapons they had fashioned from scavenged alien tech were becoming more effective with each passing moment. The once terrifying alien force had underestimated the ingenuity of the humans, and now they were paying the price. Elena could see the fear in the alien commander's eyes as their forces began to falter. The tide was shifting and the humans were not backing down. Kane, though still battling immense pain, refused to stop. His spine throbbed with each movement, but his focus never wavered. He limped through the battlefield, his eyes locked onto the alien command center in the distance. He could feel his body growing, weaker, but the drive inside him only intensified. He had come too far to stop now. They had come too far. He had to lead his people to victory. He had to show the aliens that no matter how powerful they were, humanity was not something they could crush with a single strike. The humans began to push forward with renewed strength. They had realized something that the aliens hadn't accounted for. They could not defeat the humans with sheer force alone. Humans were adaptable. They could turn any disadvantage into an advantage. They used the alien weapons against them, trapping the invaders in their own traps. The alien forces found themselves fighting on unfamiliar ground, with their own technology being turned against them. Their superior technology was no longer a sure thing. Instead, it became a liability. A sense of desperation began to take hold among the alien commanders. They ordered a full-scale retreat, but it was too late. The humans had taken control of key positions within the city, using their knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. Kane led the charge despite his pain. His face was a mask of determination as he pushed through the alien defenses, each step feeling like it could be his last. But he refused to give. And his will to survive was stronger than the agony in his body. Elena watched as the human forces advanced. She knew they were on the brink of a major victory. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to survive, to fight back. And now they were beginning to realize their mistake. Elena's heart raced as she saw Kane limping ahead, leading the charge even though his body was broken. She knew he was the symbol of human strength, the embodiment of everything they had hoped to show the aliens about what it meant to be human. As the humans continued to push forward, their enemy was forced to retreat in disarray. The once proud invaders were now running from the humans, not because they were outnumbered, but because they were terrified. They had witnessed the human spirit firsthand, and it had broken them. The invaders no longer saw a species to conquer, but a force to be reckoned with. And as Kane's figure loomed in the distance, still standing despite everything they had thrown at him, the aliens realized just how wrong they had been. Kane could feel the battle slowing down. His mind raced as he thought about how far they had come. He had known that humanity was capable of great things, but he had never imagined that it would come down to this one moment. The aliens were not just retreating, they were fleeing. They were running from humanity's will to survive, and that was something they could never understand. The humans had won this battle, not because of superior weapons or advanced technology, but because they had something that the aliens would never be able to comprehend. They had the will to fight, and they had the strength to endure. And no matter how powerful the invaders were, no matter how much advanced technology they wielded, they could not overcome the one thing humanity had in abundance: the human spirit. Kane's breath was labored as he pressed on through the battlefield. His movements were slower now, his body crying out with every step, but his mind was clear and his resolve unshaken. He led his soldiers toward the alien command center where the last vestiges of the invading force had set up their command post. The alien forces were no longer the intimidating force they had once been. They were retreating now, scrambling to reorganize, but the humans were relentless. They pushed forward with everything they had left. Every inch gained was another blow to the invaders' pride, and as they advanced, they left behind a trail of broken alien machines and shattered weapons. The humans had turned the battlefield into their own weapon. The city, once a symbol of human achievement, had become a battleground of survival and determination. Elena Voss was at the forefront coordinating the attacks and supplying the human forces with intelligence and firepower. She had never seen her people fight with such tenacity before. It was as though something had awakened within them, something that the aliens could never have anticipated. They had underestimated the spirit of humanity. The will to survive that burned deep within each and every one of them. Kane's steps grew heavier with each passing moment, his spine screaming in pain with every move. But he would not stop. He had made a promise to himself that he would not let this be the moment where humanity faltered. He had seen too many lives lost to not finish this fight. He had seen the fear in the aliens' eyes when they realized that humans were not as weak as they had thought. He knew that fear was their greatest weapon now, and he would use it to his advantage. The human forces were no longer fighting just for survival. They were fighting for victory. The alien forces were beginning to fracture their once proud formations, breaking apart as they struggled to keep up with the humans' relentless assault. The humans used the environment to their advantage, turning the city's infrastructure against the invaders. They trapped alien soldiers in narrow alleyways and set ambushes using their own weapons against them. The humans didn't need advanced technology to win. They had learned how to fight smart, how to outthink and outmaneuver their enemies. Elena watched as the alien forces began to falter. Their superior technology that had once been their greatest strength was now a liability. They had been relying on their weapons, their armor, their advanced technology to win. But the humans had shown them that no amount of technology could defeat the human spirit. She watched as one of the alien commanders attempted to rally his troops only to be met with the sounds of his own soldiers fleeing in panic. They were no longer confident. They were afraid. Kane's determination was contagious. His soldiers followed, his lead pushing forward with a ferocity that the aliens could not match. Kane's body was failing him, but his willpower was stronger than ever. He had seen how far humanity could go when pushed to the brink, and now he was showing the aliens just how far they were willing to fight. They had made a mistake underestimating humanity. They had thought that the human race was just another weak species to conquer, but they were wrong. As the humans continued to advance, the alien forces began to retreat in disarray. Their once immense confidence had been shattered by the humans' resilience and ingenuity. The aliens attempted to regroup, but it was too late. The humans had already gained too much ground. Kane knew that victory was within. Their grasp, he could feel it in his bones, every movement, every decision leading them closer to their final goal. He knew that this battle would be remembered not just as a fight for survival, but as a turning point in human history. Elena's voice rang out across the battlefield, urging the human forces to continue their pursuit of the retreating aliens. The humans had taken the offensive now, and they would not stop until every alien was driven off their planet. The alien invaders had not just underestimated the humans. They had miscalculated everything about them. They had thought the humans were fragile. They had thought they could break them with ease. But instead, the aliens had awakened a force unlike any they had encountered before. And that force was not going to stop. Kane limped forward through the chaos, his mind focused on the prize ahead. The alien command center loomed just ahead, and with every step he could feel the weight of the battle shifting further into humanity's favor. The aliens had lost the element of surprise, and they had lost their confidence. The humans had turned the tide, and now it was only a matter of time before they were driven off their world. The humans would not be defeated. They would not be broken. The aliens had made the mistake of thinking they were the apex predators of the galaxy, but they had not counted on the one thing that made humanity so dangerous: their refusal to be defeated, their ability to rise again and again. no matter how many times they were knocked down. And now as Kane moved toward the final confrontation with the alien forces, he knew one thing for certain: humanity had proven they could survive anything, and that was something no alien could ever take away. The alien forces were no longer the advanced, calculating invaders they had been when they first set foot on the human world. Now they were disorganized, frightened, retreating in a panic they had never expected from a supposedly inferior species. The once unshakable confidence the aliens had shown in their superior weaponry and technology had evaporated like mist in the wind. It had been replaced by a growing sense of fear of the humans they had underestimated and failed to defeat. The humans had shown them something that no alien race had ever seen before. The ability to fight, to adapt, to survive against impossible odds. Kane was at the heart of the human forces, his every step a painful reminder of the toll the battle had taken on his body. But his resolve was unbroken. His spine still screamed in agony, but every breath, every step felt like a victory in itself. He had become more than just a soldier. He had become the symbol of everything humanity stood for. They had never given up. They had never surrendered to anyone or anything, and now they were proving it to the galaxy. They were proving it to the aliens who had thought them weak. As the humans advanced, the alien forces continued to retreat, their once mighty weapons and technologies now rendered useless in the face of human ingenuity. The aliens had thought they could dominate the humans with advanced firepower, with superior technology, but they had forgotten one thing. The humans would never stop fighting, and they would never stop adapting. They used the alien tech against the invaders, their knowledge of their own environment and the alien technology giving them the upper hand. Dr. Elena Voss watched as the humans continued their relentless advance. She had always known the human race was capable of greatness, but now she saw it in ways she never thought possible. The humans were not fighting with just weapons and technology. They were fighting with their hearts, their minds, and their unyielding will to survive. They had taken the battlefield and turned it into a place where they were no longer the hunted but the hunters. The alien command center was now within reach. The once impregnable fortress had become a symbol of the invaders' desperation. They had tried to hold their ground, but it was no use. The humans were too resourceful, too relentless. They were pushing the aliens back at every turn. The aliens tried to regroup, but their formations were in disarray, their coordination lacking. They had been overconfident, and it had cost them dearly. The humans were not the weaklings the aliens had assumed them to be. They were fighters and survivors, and now the invaders knew. Kane moved forward despite the pain, his mind sharp and focused. On the task ahead, he knew they had the aliens on the ropes now. All they had to do was press their advantage and the battle would be won. The alien commanders were scrambling, trying to form new strategies, but it was too late. The humans had already proven they could turn every advantage into a disadvantage for the invaders. Every plan the aliens had relied on was crumbling. The humans were adapting faster than the aliens could predict. They were using the terrain to their advantage, creating ambushes and traps out of the very city the aliens had thought they would control. The once impressive alien technology now seemed to falter in the face of human innovation. The humans had turned their disadvantage into a weapon, their makeshift. Weapons crafted from alien tech were proving more effective than the invaders had ever imagined, and the humans' ability to improvise, to think on their feet, was overwhelming. The alien forces. Elena's voice rang out across the battlefield as she coordinated the final push toward the alien command center. The humans had reached the walls of the alien stronghold now, and the alien forces were scattered in disarray. Kane's men were pushing forward, their spirits high despite the weariness of the battle. They had seen their leader continue to fight despite his injuries, and that had inspired them to do the same. Kane limped forward, leading the charge. His breath came in labored gasps, but his determination remained unwavering. He had seen his comrades fall and had felt the pain of loss, but he had never once thought of quitting. This was not just a fight for survival anymore. This was a fight for humanity's place in the galaxy. The humans had shown the aliens that they were not to be underestimated, that they could stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful forces in the universe and come out victorious. The alien forces were no longer the threat they had once been. Now they were the hunted. The humans had them cornered, and the alien commanders knew they had no way out. They tried to regroup, but it was no use. The humans were too relentless, too cunning. Their advantage had become their weakness, and now the invaders were paying the price. Kane reached the gates of the alien command center and raised his weapon in defiance. The humans had done it. They had proven that no matter how powerful an enemy might seem, no matter how overwhelming the odds, humanity could survive and could fight back against anyone who sought to destroy them. The battle had been hard fought, but the humans had shown the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with. And as Kane stood there battered and broken but victorious, he knew one thing for certain: the aliens would never make the mistake of underestimating humanity again. The alien command center stood like a monument to their failure, a once formidable fortress now besieged by the unstoppable advance of humanity. The walls that had once been impenetrable now felt fragile as the humans pushed forward with relentless determination. Kane limped ahead, his spine aching with every movement, but his resolve never wavered. He could see the alien commanders scrambling inside their stronghold, trying to make sense of the collapse of their forces. They had underestimated humanity from the beginning, and now they were paying the price. The battle had taken its toll on both sides, but the humans had something that the aliens could never understand, something that had carried them through every conflict and every setback: their will to survive and their ability to adapt. Elena Voss moved through the battlefield with a calm precision. She had seen her people pushed to their limits, but she had also seen them rise above those limits. Their ability to adapt had turned the tide of this battle, and now they were on the brink of victory. The alien forces were scattered, broken, their once proud armies now nothing more than a rabble retreating under the pressure of human ingenuity. The humans had turned their environment into a weapon. Their improvised tactics and use of alien technology had left the invaders with no option but to retreat. The humans had become the hunters and the aliens the prey. As Kane moved closer to the alien command center, he felt a surge of adrenaline despite the pain in his body. The once unshakable alien forces were now desperately trying to regroup, but it was too late. The humans had them on the ropes, and they weren't about to let go. The alien commanders had seen their best forces crumble in the face of humanity's ingenuity, and they now realized they were fighting a losing battle. The humans weren't just fighting for their world, they were fighting for their survival, and the aliens had no way to prepare for that kind of determination. Kane and his soldiers pushed past the alien defenses, cutting through them with unrelenting force. The alien tech that had once been the key to their dominance was now being used against them. The humans had learned to repurpose alien weapons, turning them into devastating tools of destruction. The invaders' advanced armor was no match for the ingenuity of the humans, who had adapted to every challenge thrown at them. The aliens tried to fight back, but their weapons failed them. Their armor couldn't withstand the human tactics. Their pride couldn't stop the relentless human drive. Kane reached the heart of the command center and paused for a moment, his breath ragged and uneven. He looked around at the wreckage of the alien forces, their command center now in ruins and their leadership in disarray. He could hear the sound of alien voices shouting in panic, the once calm strategists now frantically trying to salvage their defeat. Elena's voice crackled over the comms, urging him to continue pushing forward. She knew this was the moment they had been fighting for. This was the moment humanity would prove once and for all that they were not to be underestimated. The alien commanders attempted a final stand, but it was futile. Their forces were broken and their will to fight had shattered. The humans had already won the psychological battle, and now they were finishing what they had started. Kane pushed forward through the wreckage, his soldiers behind him, each one moving with the same single-minded focus. He knew that this was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. The aliens would never forget the day they had underestimated humans and paid the ultimate price for it. As the final alien resistance crumbled, Kane stood before the shattered alien leaders, his eyes filled with fire but his body exhausted. He had seen his comrades fall. He had felt the pain of his own injuries, and yet he had never once thought about surrendering. He had led them this far, and now they were on the brink of victory. The aliens had been so sure of their superiority that they had never considered the possibility that humanity might fight back. They had come to conquer, and now they were leaving in disgrace. The final moments of the battle unfolded like a storm, the alien forces falling apart at the seams. The humans didn't need to fight with advanced technology or overwhelming numbers. They fought with their hearts, with their minds, and with the unyielding belief that no matter what was thrown at them, they would survive the alien commanders who had once looked down upon. Humanity now found themselves facing the inevitable. They had no choice but to surrender or be destroyed. And in that moment, as Kane stood victorious, he knew that humanity's place in the galaxy was forever changed. They had proven they were not just survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. The dust of the battlefield hung in the air thick and heavy as the alien forces, broken and defeated, slowly began to retreat. The once proud invaders who had believed they were unstoppable now found themselves fleeing from a species they had once dismissed as insignificant. The humans stood victorious among the ruins of the alien command center, their faces grim but resolute. They had fought not just for their world but for their very survival. And now the cost of that victory was clear. The battlefield was littered with the bodies of fallen soldiers, both human and alien alike. But amidst the carnage stood something far more powerful than any weapon or technology humanity had ever encountered: the human spirit. Kane stood at the heart of the battlefield, his broken body, a testament to the strength of the human. Will his spine throbbed with pain, but it was a pain that no longer mattered. The aliens had come with the intent to destroy, and now they were leaving in disgrace. Their defeat was not just the loss of a battle, it was the loss of their arrogance, their belief that they were the superior species in the galaxy. Kane's eyes scanned the wreckage of the alien command center, where their leaders now knelt in submission. The aliens had thought that humanity could be crushed with ease, but they had learned too late that humans were not like other species. They would never go quietly into the night. Elena Voss approached Kane, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and awe. She had seen the humans push beyond their limits time and time again, and yet nothing could have prepared her for the true scale of their triumph. The aliens had underestimated humanity from the start, but now it was impossible to ignore the fact that the humans had won, not because they had the best weapons or the greatest technology, but because they had something far more powerful. They had heart, they had the will to survive. "We've done it," Elena said quietly, her voice tinged with disbelief as she looked out at the wreckage of the battlefield. The alien invaders who had once held such power now lay broken and scattered. The humans had done the impossible. They had driven off an enemy that had come to conquer them, and in doing so they had proven to the galaxy that humanity would never back down. "We've won." Kane's lips curled into a tired smile despite the pain that racked his body. He had always known that humanity was capable of incredible things, but even he hadn't fully realized the extent of their strength until this moment. The aliens had come thinking that they could conquer Earth, but they had been wrong. They had come to destroy a species that had been underestimated for too long. They had come to eradicate humans, but instead they had awakened a force that no one could ignore. The alien commanders who had once looked down on humanity were now bound and subdued, their faces filled with a mix of anger and fear. They had seen firsthand the unrelenting strength of the humans, and it terrified them. The invaders had thought that technology would be enough to break humanity, but they had learned that no amount of advanced weaponry could ever replace the power of human ingenuity and determination. As Kane stood in front of the alien leaders, he knew that they would never forget the lesson they had learned on Earth. They would remember the day when humanity rose up against them and proved that no matter how powerful an enemy might seem, no matter how advanced their technology might be, humans could always fight back. The humans gathered around the fallen alien commanders, their eyes hard with resolve. There was no fear in their faces, only the cold certainty that they had triumphed over an invincible enemy. The aliens had underestimated them, and in doing so had sealed their own fate. The humans had fought with every ounce of strength they had, and now they stood victorious not just as survivors but as conquerors of a force that had once seemed unstoppable. Kane looked out at the horizon where the sun was beginning to set. He could feel the weight of the battle lifting from his shoulders as the last remnants of the alien forces scattered in defeat. The humans had shown the galaxy their true strength, and no one would ever forget what they had done. The victory was not just a military one. It was a statement to the universe that humanity was no longer something to be underestimated. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the aliens had learned that the hard way. As the humans began to rebuild their shattered world, Kane stood silently, his mind reflecting on everything that had happened. The aliens had come to Earth with the intent to destroy, and now they were leaving, broken and humbled. Their defeat would echo across the galaxy, and every species who had once thought of humanity as weak would now think twice before ever considering them an easy target. Again, humanity had won not just this battle, but a place among the stars, a place where they would not be subjugated, but would rise to stand equal to any other race. And as the sun set over the battlefield, Kane knew that humanity's story was only just beginning. The universe had just learned a hard lesson. The humans were here to stay. As the last remnants of the alien fleet vanished into the distant stars, the humans stood tall in the wreckage of their victory. There was no celebration, yet they had endured the battle together, fought side by side through unimaginable odds, and now they were left with the quiet aftermath. The war was over, but the scars remained, not just on the land, but in the hearts of every soldier, every civilian, who had witnessed the incredible events unfold. But as the wind blew through the wreckage, something else blew through them too. A sense of pride that could not be shattered, no matter the hardship. They had faced the impossible and had come out victorious. Kane stood amidst the ruins, his breath heavy, his body broken but his spirit unyielding. He had led them through the darkest moments, and now the light of victory shone upon them. The aliens had underestimated humanity from the very beginning. They thought the humans weak and fragile, but they had seen firsthand the indomitable will of the human spirit, the power that came from sheer will to survive. They had not only lost a battle but a war against something they could never understand, the boundless strength that humans held within them. The galaxy would never be the same again, and neither would humanity. From that day forward, every species, every empire would know that humanity could not be crushed, that they could rise again no matter how many times they were knocked down. The aliens had thought of humans as nothing more than an easy conquest, a species to be crushed under their heels. But now they knew that humanity was far more than that. They were survivors, warriors, fighters who could not be beaten by superior firepower or overwhelming odds. They were humans, and they would never back down. And so as the battlefield quieted, the humans began to rebuild their lives, their homes, their future. They would carry with them the memory of the battle, the sacrifices made, and the lessons learned. They would remember the victory not just for the defeat of their enemies, but for the triumph of their own strength and resilience. They would carry that strength into every battle that came, and into every new challenge they faced. The war had ended, but their journey was just beginning. The stars above glistened with possibility, and humanity stood ready to reach for them once more, ready to show the universe that no matter the distance, no matter the odds, they would always rise. And as the last remnants of the alien forces fled into the darkness of space, humanity knew one thing for sure: they were here to stay. The end.